Capricorn, you are about to have a dream that will talk to you at night. Don't ignore it. Stop for a moment, just one breath, and feel what's moving beneath the surface of your usually grounded energy. Something ancient is stirring. Something wise. You may not be able to name it yet, but you've likely felt it in your body. The restless sleep, the sense of nearing something meaningful, the way certain thoughts seem to repeat themselves just before you drift off. This is not random. The universe has chosen this exact moment to speak to you, and it will do so not through noise or signs in the outer world, but through the quiet whisper of your dreams. In the coming nights, you are being called to receive something rare, a message not from your mind, but from your higher self. A vision, a memory, a knowing, delivered in a dream so vivid, so emotionally clear, that you'll wake up not with confusion, but with certainty. Something you've been carrying in silence, perhaps a decision, a burden, a longing, will find release, not through struggle, but through surrender. If these words awaken something in you, I invite you to stay. If they stir a quiet yes, then this message was meant for you. And if your heart recognizes this space, feel free to like, share, or subscribe, not to follow me, but to stay connected to the part of you that's already listening. Because the dream is coming. And this time you're ready. Gate 1, the first night, preparing the inner temple for divine communication. Capricorn, you are not someone who believes things lightly. You need to feel it in your bones, in the rhythm of your life, in the logic that whispers behind mystery. You don't follow trends or vague spirituality. If it doesn't root in reality, you pass it by. But what if I told you that the dream coming to you is not fantasy, it is function, not escape, but architecture? This is not about chasing visions. It's about receiving clarity through sleep, the one place you cannot control, yet the one place where the soul does its deepest work. Let's begin with something simple. Why now? Capricorn, for weeks now, maybe even months, you've felt a subtle tightening around your sleep. A sense of unfinished thoughts cycling through your head at night. It's not anxiety in the traditional sense. It's a kind of inner recalibration. You lie down tired, but somehow still alert. You dream, but it's fragmented. You wake up feeling both heavy and strangely wired. This is not random. It's preparation. You are being spiritually rewired to receive a transmission, a direct message from the higher dimension of your own consciousness. Your subconscious has been stirred because it knows something old is ending. A decision you've delayed is nearing its tipping point. And the mind won't give you the answer, but your dream will. Let me tell you a story. Julian, a 44-year-old Capricorn architect in Portland, had spent 3 years designing the same eco-village project. But no matter how he revised it, he couldn't solve a critical flaw in the layout. It wasn't just technical, it was energetic. It didn't feel right. One night, after reading a passage about sacred geometry, he lit a candle and went to bed, whispering aloud, "If there's another way, show me." He dreamt that night of walking through a forest where buildings rose from the earth like trees. In the dream, someone handed him a sketchbook and said, "Design it like it grew here." He woke up at 3:11 a.m., grabbed a pencil, and redrew the entire foundation. 6 months later, the village broke ground, and even the engineers said the new layout just made more sense. Julian didn't become psychic. He became still enough to listen. Capricorn, you too are being called to that stillness. Not as a task, but as an invitation. You've mastered structure, effort, and resilience. But now the next stage of your growth requires receptivity, stillness, inner space. So how do you prepare for a dream that wants to change you? You begin by tending your internal temple. You don't need incense or mantras unless they feel true. You need intentional space. Here are 3 very real, very grounding practices to begin. 1. Dismantle the noise 1 hour before sleep. You're a builder, Capricorn. Your mind is always constructing timelines, projects, solutions. But 1 hour before bed, stop. No emails. No strategy. No social media rabbit holes. Dim the lights. Turn off the input. You are making room not for content, but for contact. 2. Speak your intention aloud. This sounds odd, perhaps childish. But the subconscious responds to voice, not logic. Try this. Before lying down, say gently, "If there is something I need to see, let it come through my dreams. Let it come with clarity. I will remember." You are giving the universe permission to send the message in a way your soul will understand. 3. Prepare a pen and notebook. Not your phone. Not a text to yourself. Real paper. Put it beside your bed. Your dream may wake you up in the middle of the night, or its message may dissolve by morning. But when you write immediately, symbols, colors, people, words, you anchor the message, and the universe notices. Capricorn, your dream won't come with flashing lights or dramatic omens. It will come the way truth always arrives to you. Quietly, logically, through symbol, structure, or sequence. You might see a number you've ignored, a door you keep forgetting to open, a person from your past offering something impossible like forgiveness. It will speak not in poetry, but in pattern, the language you trust. Now here's something you won't hear often. Even if you forget the dream, it still works. You see, this isn't about memory. It's about impact. Your brain is processing information differently at night, especially in Capricorn season. As Saturn, your ruling planet, governs long-term growth and karmic alignment, your dreams aren't just stories. They are reprogramming codes sent through your own higher self to guide you past the roadblocks you didn't know you placed. A woman named Linda, age 56, told me recently, "I didn't remember the dream, but I woke up with an answer I'd been avoiding for years, like it just clicked into place." That's how the dream works. Not like a movie, but like a bridge. So, ask yourself, Capricorn, what have I been trying to solve with logic that may actually require soul insight? What part of my life feels like it's circling but not landing? Am I willing to become still enough to listen? Because if you are, the dream will come. And it won't be ordinary. It will be tailored, specific, whispered in the quiet language of your soul's blueprint. Capricorn, the mind can't solve everything. You know this. There are truths too large for language, too subtle for daylight. But at night, in that sacred quiet, the truth can find you. Not because you're chasing it, but because you've finally become still enough to receive. This is how the first gate opens, not with action, but with permission. And this time you're ready. Gate 2, the great release, shedding the weight of old dreams and karmic cycles. Capricorn, you carry dreams like stone tablets, etched, sacred, immovable. When you set your sights on something, you commit, not just an effort, but an identity. You become the dream. You build your life around it. You sacrifice for it. You measure time by its milestones. But what happens when the dream changes? Or worse, what happens when it no longer fits, but you keep carrying it anyway? This, my dear Capricorn, is the silent suffering no one talks about. The pain of growing out of your own legacy. The ache of outliving a version of yourself that once felt like your future. And that is what this dream, this message from the night, is coming to heal. In the days to come, as your sleep deepens and your subconscious opens, you may find yourself visited not just by visions of the future, but echoes of the past. People you thought you'd let go. Plans you never finished. Choices that still haunt you. These aren't random. They're invitations. You're being asked lovingly, gently, but firmly to let go of what no longer aligns. Not because it failed, but because you evolved. Let me tell you a real story. A Capricorn woman I once worked with, let's call her Elena, spent 20 years building a non-profit organization that supported single mothers. It was her passion, her purpose. But over the last few years, she began feeling distant from it. Not because it wasn't important, but because something in her was shifting. She started dreaming of being a teacher, of creating spiritual retreats for older women who had lost themselves in caregiving. But she resisted. "I can't abandon what I've built," she said. "People rely on me. This was my calling." Then, during a trip to Sedona, she had a dream. She was standing in a house she'd built by hand, and as she walked through it, the walls started turning to sand. Panicked, she tried to hold them up. But a voice in the dream said, "You didn't fail. You finished." She woke up sobbing. Within a month, she transitioned her organization to a new director and began designing her first healing circle. That was 5 years ago. She now leads retreats in 3 countries and says, "I thought letting go meant death, but it was actually rebirth." Capricorn, you need to hear this. Some dreams are seasonal. Some callings have expiration dates. Some roles were never meant to be forever. And if you keep holding what's meant to be released, it becomes weight instead of wisdom. Right now, your soul is asking you to lay something down. Maybe it's a career path that no longer feeds you. Maybe it's a relationship built on who you used to be. Maybe it's a version of success that exhausts you but keeps you feeling safe. Whatever it is, the dream coming to you soon will show it, symbolically, metaphorically, or even directly. You might dream of carrying heavy boxes that begin leaking water. You might see yourself missing a train, or walking barefoot through a house you no longer recognize. These aren't bad dreams. They're messages in metaphor. And if you don't resist them, they can be liberating. Capricorn, letting go is not the opposite of responsibility. It is the fulfillment of it. Because real maturity isn't just about commitment. It's about discernment. It's knowing when something no longer serves your evolution, even if it once defined your purpose. You are not meant to shrink yourself into old blueprints. You are meant to renovate your life as your soul expands. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you let go, what's meant for you begins to approach. But you must first create space. So ask yourself, what am I holding on to because I'm afraid of being seen as inconsistent? What dream have I outgrown, but still wear like a uniform? What would I do if I trusted that release could be sacred? These are not rhetorical questions. These are keys. And in the coming nights, your dreams may answer them in ways your conscious mind cannot. Here's something else to remember. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean the past didn't matter. It means you're giving it a proper ending. An honorable closure. You're acknowledging the cycle has served its purpose. Just like winter makes way for spring, your soul is entering a season of sacred transition. And it will feel like grief. And it will feel like liberation. Sometimes both in the same breath. This is the karmic turning point for Capricorn in 2025. For too long, you've carried the ancestral programming of endure, push through, don't quit. But your soul is whispering a new mantra: evolve, reaches, rebuild. Capricorn, you are the mountain. But even mountains erode, and new peaks are formed in their place. Let this next version of you emerge, not because you've failed the old, but because you've completed it. The dream that's coming to you is not just about insight. It's about permission. You will wake up knowing something is over. And you will feel both the ache and the awe of that truth. You will feel like someone is missing, but then realize it's only the old you, finally set free. This is how Gate 2 opens, not with force, but with release. Not with fear, but with reverence. Not with answers, but with space for the right ones to arrive. And Capricorn, when you do finally let go, you don't fall. You rise. Gate 3, the soul encounter. When dreams connect you to your divine mirror. Capricorn, by now you've felt it. This isn't just about understanding your past or making space for change. This journey has a pulse, a direction. And that direction is inward. You are being led to a threshold that no career move, no external milestone, no applause can substitute for: a soul encounter. There are moments in life when a dream is not just a message, but a meeting. Not with a stranger, not even with a memory, but with a part of yourself you forgot existed. In the coming nights, Capricorn, you may dream of someone real or imagined, who speaks to your soul in a way that feels unsettling and strangely familiar. Their presence may feel luminous, magnetic, even divine. They may say very little. Sometimes they say nothing at all. But you will wake up knowing that dream was different. What you're experiencing is not fiction. It's a mirror. Let me explain. In ancient esoteric traditions, the soul was believed to be multifaceted, like a diamond, with different expressions that we reconnect with over time. One of these expressions is what mystics call the divine mirror, the archetype of perfect resonance. In dreams, It often appears as a guide, a lover, a child, or even an animal. But its essence is always the same. It reflects your truest, most aligned self. This is not about romance, although love may be a theme. This is about recognition. Let me tell you a story. A Capricorn man in his 50s once shared a dream with me. He had been through 2 divorces and had stopped believing in deep connection. Then one night, during a full moon in March, he dreamt of sitting in an empty cathedral. A woman in white walked in, barefoot, holding a candle. She sat beside him, looked him in the eyes, and whispered, "You haven't been alone. You've just been waiting for the part of you that remembers." He woke up weeping, not with sadness, but with relief. For the first time, he told me, I didn't feel broken. I felt found. That is the power of a soul encounter. It doesn't fill a gap. It reveals that you are never incomplete. Capricorn, you've spent much of your life building things for others, security, structure, legacy. But this dream is different. It's not asking you to build. It's asking you to merge, to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. In this dream, you may be guided to a place that seems familiar, but not from this lifetime. A childhood home that never existed. A garden with stars instead of flowers. A voice that calls you by a name you've never heard, but instinctively know. That is the language of soul memory. And it only appears when you're ready. Capricorn, you are not just being prepared for a shift in purpose. You are being reunited with a truth that predates every role you've ever played. The person or energy you meet in the dream may awaken feelings you've buried. Tenderness, longing, safety, expansion. You may feel exposed and held at the same time. This is not to confuse you, it's to recalibrate you. Because to live from soul, you must recognize soul. Some people meet this mirror and feel inspired to create art, write, change careers, or finally forgive someone from their past. Others begin to speak more softly to themselves, to protect their peace, to love more bravely. Whatever form it takes for you, Capricorn, trust that it is sacred. Now, a word of caution. Don't rush to label the dream. Don't assume the person in it is meant to appear in waking life exactly as they did in sleep. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. What matters is how you felt, not who you saw. What matters is the awakening it triggers, not the storyline it presents. If you wake up and feel profoundly changed, even if you can't explain why, write it down. Dwell in it. Sit with it. The clarity will come. Ask yourself, what part of me did this dream reflect that I've neglected? What emotion did I feel that I haven't allowed myself to feel in waking life? What truth did that presence see in me that I've been afraid to see? Because here's the truth, Capricorn. This dream isn't introducing you to someone new. It's reuniting you with someone eternal. Your soul, your essence, your luminous core beneath the armor. And when you meet yourself at that depth, nothing in your outer life will ever feel the same. You'll choose differently, speak differently, work differently, not from fear, but from remembrance. Capricorn, you are not your achievements. You are not your scars. You are the quiet strength beneath them. The dream will remind you. And when you look into that mirror, whether it appears as a person, a place, or pure light, you will finally recognize what the world has never quite been able to name in you. Your soul's beauty. This is how Gate 3 opens. Not with noise, but with a gaze. Not with proof, but with knowing. And in that knowing, you return home. Gate 4. Integration and sacred action. Living the dream in the real world. Capricorn, a dream is not the end of a journey. It is the beginning of a conversation with life itself. And now that you've seen, felt, and remembered something sacred in the quiet of night, the question becomes, how will you live differently because of it? This gate is about integration. Not just reflection, but embodiment. Not just receiving the message, but becoming it. Because dreams, even the most divine ones, mean little if they remain only in the realm of spirit. The real magic happens when we walk them into the world. And Capricorn, you were born for this part. You, more than any sign, understand the value of real-world action. You know how to translate vision into structure, insight into habit, meaning into legacy. But here's the twist. What's being asked of you now is not blind execution. It's conscious alignment. The message of the dream, whether it was a soul encounter, a spiritual mirror, or a release of the past, must be honored not just in thought, but in choice. In the little decisions you make every day that say to the universe, "Yes, I remember." Let's bring this down to earth. Suppose in your dream, you were shown a room you always avoid, a metaphor for the part of yourself you neglect. Integration might mean having a real, honest conversation with someone you've been avoiding, or returning to a creative practice you abandoned out of fear you weren't good enough. Or say your dream brought forward a radiant figure that showed you what unconditional love looks like. Then in waking life, the sacred action might be to love yourself with that same gentleness. To no longer work yourself to the point of burnout. To say no when your energy says stop. To nourish, not punish. Or maybe your dream gave you a vision of the life you could have, simpler, freer, more intuitive. Then integration might mean releasing one project, one role, or one belief that no longer aligns with that future. It doesn't need to be drastic. It only needs to be true. Capricorn, this is what separates insight from transformation. Courage. The courage to honor a dream not as fantasy, but as instruction. The courage to stop negotiating with your soul. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. That's not what this gate is about. This is a gate of subtle shifts with profound ripples. It's the way you prepare your morning tea with presence now. The way you pause before replying to a triggering email. The way you speak to your inner child when fear whispers, "You're not ready." Each of these is a ceremony. Each is a prayer in motion. And slowly, they change you. Now, this process isn't always graceful. There may be resistance, internal and external. Friends may question why you're quieter. Family might not understand why you're no longer chasing what wants to find you. Even your own mind will try to revert. Was it really just a dream? But if you pay attention, your body will know the difference. The way your chest softens when you're aligned. The peace that floods your belly when you say no from a place of truth. The tears that rise, not from sadness, but from remembering who you are. That's your compass now. Capricorn, this part of the path requires you to walk the unseen, to trust the energy more than the evidence, to take action before the world validates your knowing. But don't worry, you're not doing this alone. The dream has changed you. Even if no one else can see it yet, you can feel it. And with every action that aligns with the message you received, that shift deepens. You are becoming your own oracle. And here's something even deeper. When you embody your dreams, you activate others. Without saying a word, your energy shifts the room. Your presence reminds others of their own buried truths. You become a walking invitation for courage, for softness, for authenticity. That's the ripple effect of integration. That's how sacred action changes the world. Let me tell you about Caleb, a Capricorn artist who once dreamed he was underwater, painting murals on ancient ruins. When he awoke, he dismissed it as symbolic nonsense. But a week later, he stumbled upon a nonprofit searching for volunteers to restore temples in Southeast Asia, and they needed artists. It terrified him. It didn't make sense financially, but the dream lingered. 6 months later, he stood barefoot in Thailand, painting the very images from his dream. Fish, spirals, ancient eyes, onto sun-soaked stone. It wasn't the art, he told me. It was the obedience to something bigger. That's the essence of Gate 4. Capricorn, you are not being asked to explain your dream. You're being asked to respond to it. And that might mean sending the letter you wrote years ago, but never sent. Applying for the position that feels too big, but fits your soul. Booking the ticket. Ending the contract. Starting the ritual. Trusting that your dream was not just for insight, but for movement. This is your gift. Not just the dream, but the power to make it real. You are the dreamwalker now. You are the bridge. And every sacred action you take, no matter how small, reweaves the world into something more honest, more beautiful, more alive. So Capricorn, what is your next step? Not the big one. Not the dramatic one. just the one your soul whispers now. Because this is how Gate 4 opens. Not with lightning, but with footsteps. Not with revelation, but with devotion. And when you walk this path, remember, you're not just integrating a dream. You're becoming the dream. Conclusion. This sacred circle closes. You are the answer you've been waiting for. Capricorn, take a deep breath. Let the silence between these words sink in. You've walked with me through 4 sacred gates, each revealing not just messages from beyond, but pieces of your own soul waiting to be reclaimed. The heaviness you felt wasn't just fatigue. It was spiritual gestation. The dream wasn't just a message. It was a mirror. And every insight wasn't just a sign. It was an invitation. You are not here to wait for fate to speak. You are here because it already has. And now it's your move. The truth is, the universe never withholds answers. It only waits for the heart to soften enough to receive them. And you, dear Capricorn, have softened. You've opened. You've remembered. You no longer need permission to trust what you know deep down. You no longer need the world to validate your intuition. You've seen that dreams are not random. They are the soul's language. And you speak it fluently now. As you return to your daily life, do not rush. Let the integration be slow, like honey. Let your choices carry the weight of what you've remembered. Let your steps be sacred, not perfect. You are the answer you've been waiting for. You are the clarity. You are the shift. If this journey spoke to your spirit, I invite you, gently, to like, share, or subscribe. Not to boost numbers, but to say to your future self, I chose to stay awake. Thank you for walking this path with me. And until we meet again, keep dreaming, keep listening, keep becoming.